What up, everybody? It's your boy Jester James here, coming at you with another YouTube video. Today we're gonna be recapping an old post of mine. A post, I think this one goes back to 2019. Great year, had some fun, had a cat in there, and things along those lines. But really, the reason I wanted to go back over this post is because we're transitioning a little bit to doing some more red teaming exercises in the next few videos that we're gonna be getting into. And I acknowledge that in this post, if you actually go on the old website and prior to this video getting made, right, the video that was on this page no longer exists because this was on the old website and I had it hosted over there, and now the website has been remade and a lot of logistics in that aspect. But all the content here is still very relevant because we're still using an old box. And just like it says here, what we're actually going to be getting into is Metasploit. So just like the blog post says, and you'll even notice here some of the old little features of the website, like having the image in there twice, because this is part of the blog post itself, and then this one is an image inserted prior. A classic meow. Old 2019 Jester James, huh? So, we'll be recapping this article. Let's start off the bat, read it off, right? What up, peeps? It's James here. Last time we went into some extremely rudimentary password cracking for hacksoring into a system. This week, let's get into one of the essential skid tools to have in your arsenal as an elite hacker. And I mean cybersecurity student, right? Because back in the day, we were still at Camp Champ studying cybersecurity, and now we're here working in the field, in the industry, right? Pretty cool how time flies. And I see time flies, but it's been a hot 2-3 years. So we're gonna be going into Metasploit here, and you can go. I'll let y'all go toss around in the blog post, but really what we're gonna be focused on here is this video and recapping that and getting this video up so the video right is available. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, I got my VirtualBox machine set up, and the machine that you're going to be leveraging is going to be Metasploitable. So it's called Metasploitable. And there's Metasploitable, and then there's Metasploitable 2. We're going to be using the first one because that's what this blog post is specifically about. And in Metasploitable 2, right, the difficulty of exploiting that box actually increases. So, for example, if you run an Nmap scan on that box as opposed to this one, you're not going to get the same ports and things along those lines. So let's power up our boxes, though. So I'm going to do normal start there. Also going to start our pen testing box there. So that's just the Kali Linux box. So that's got all the tools we need in it. So things along the lines like Metasploit, Nmap, and all our tools there. So this box, one of the things I actually had to do here, shut that buoy down. I can remove this now. Hit OK, and then start that buoy again. There we go. Technically, I could just let it run there. It's going to be loading up. See, our Metasploitable box is also taking a hot sec there to start up. But basically, what we're going to get to here is we're going to get them IP addresses so we know what our target is and then what we're going to be quote-unquote red teaming from or hacking from. There we go. You got that classy Kali Linux logo. I was actually on the old InfoSec Twitter the other day, and I was looking and scrolling across some of the feeds, and it was hilarious because there's people out there who have like Kali Linux tattoos on their bodies, on their arms and legs and things along those lines, and I was like, wow, that's some real dedication to your favorite pen testing Linux distro, right? So I got some classic throwaway deets here. Logging in our Metasploit box. Still starting up. Metasploitable box, as in exploitable using Metasploit. Alright, folks, we got our Metasploitable box here on the left here. And then we've got our Kali box right here. So I got the IP address of this Kali box here. We're gonna make sure we can ping it, we can talk to it that way. There we go. So we know we can actually hit it when we're gonna start exploiting and trying to break into this box here. And just an FYI, y'all can snag this box over here on VulnHub. VulnHub, great resource for getting vulnerable machines that you can test your red teaming skills on. So obviously this is the Metasploitable 1, really old, released in 2010. But we got it spun up here. Let's put our machines back up. So right off the bat, what we're gonna do, we're gonna use Metasploit to exploit this machine. So we verified we can actually connect to it by using some ICMP. Now, with that, our first step here, we're going to use systemctl start Postgres. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the, missed the S there. System. So we're going to start the SQL database there. That way, Metasploit, the database, is going to get set up and things along those lines on that back end. So there we go. And then we're going to start MSF. So I'm going to sudo this command too. MSFDB init. So this initializes the Metasploit database. There we go. So the database already started. Makes sense. And then we're going to NMSF console, which will spin up Metasploit for us. There you go. So it says starting the Metasploit framework console. Now this is, Metasploit is one of your standard pen testing tools, penetration red team testing tools that you leverage. And it's because it's open source, free resource, and things along those lines. And it's cool, you know, you get this nice little ASCII text art here. Every time you start it up, it's different. So what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be organized, right? We're gonna start up and create a workspace. That way, when we come back in it's just a good habit, because when you start doing some red teaming and then you leave and then you come back, you'll be able to have everything organized into this workspace here. So I'm gonna add it, and I'm just gonna go and we'll call this one YouTube, we'll say. Just because we're on that video, so we'll have a double extra meme here. Then what we're going to do, we're going to step into that workspace. And now right off the bat, right, so we're going to run an Nmap scan. So an Nmap, right, when you're doing a red teaming exercise, you have your different phases. When you're pen testing, you have the different phases, and there's a blog post on that, right? You can go and check that out. It's on the pen testing life cycle. It's on the blog post page there. So that hyperlink needs to get fixed. We'll be fixing that, boy. This is like I said, this is like an old, real old blog post. So right here, right, we've got all the different phases. So phase 1, pre-engagement interactions, and then phase 2 is OSINT and reconnaissance. So in the reconnaissance aspect and even like planning exploits and threat modeling, so like phase 2 to phase 3 here is really when you're going to be using Nmap. So Nmap, and the thing about Nmap is, right, like Nmap, the question about Nmap is whether it's a passive reconnaissance tool or an active reconnaissance tool. And Nmap would be considered an active reconnaissance tool simply because of the fact that you're actually going to be touching the boxes that you're potentially going to be attacking. And what I mean by that is Nmap is actually going to actively scan the hosts and look for potential IPs and ports and run scanning parameters around that. So that being said, we're going to go back. We're going to run nmap. So db underscore nmap dash a. And I'm using the -T5 flag simply because of the fact that these are our own boxes, right? We have consent. These machines are running on our own computers. We're not actually going to be quote unquote red teaming or attacking a actual system that is in scope or potentially like serious. Well, we're in our lab and we're gonna be working on our own Metasploitable box. So using that T5 flag is totally all right because we're gonna be noisy and things along those lines. So here we go. Host seems to be down. I might have... Oh, lol. I used the wrong IP address. Remember? So, like, that's the IP address in the blog post. Remember squad. We gotta update it to be the IP address that we're actually exploiting in our own environment. So that was the IP address of the box in the lab when I did it back at Camp Champ. What it is now is 68.61 because, again, we're doing this at a different location and on a different machine now, so there you go. You can see nmap's taking a little bit of time there now. Starting nmap, there we go. Scanning. You know, it's going to take a little bit of time because it's doing its work. You can tell too because in the blog post, the screenshots are different. I have this is back when I was using VMware and I still had my student license for it. Now I'm running on the old Oracle free open source virtualization hypervisor platform. All right, there we go. Nmap done. Scanned in 58.4 seconds, so just about a minute there. What we're going to do, we're going to look at what ports are open, look at the results of this Nmap scan, see what we can use to potentially get some access and get some credentials into this Metasploitable box. Now, I know MySQL is the way we're going to be going, but let's look at all the ports that are open. And again, this machine, right, this Metasploitable box right here, this box is intentionally vulnerable. Shout out to the folks at Rapid7 for creating boxes like this so we can kind of go and test our skills. So the ports open, there's FTP, there's SSH. They even gave us the host key there. There's Telnet, there's SMTP. There's DNS. There's HTTP, so there's potential for some web vulnerabilities there. Maybe like a web shell. There's Samba too, so there's definitely Samba potential that you can exploit there. It's using Apache Tomcat 2 and an old version at that, so 100% vulnerable. And if you're watching this in 2022, which I'm making it in 2022, y'all know about Log4j. Log4j, real big vulnerability that recently came out that you can go and potentially leverage on this box. Because, again, this box is really old. It was made in 2010. But we're gonna focus on MySQL here. So MySQL leveraging on port 3306, and we've got some good Metasploitable modules that you can use. So if you want, you can go do the whole Google researching. So you can go to like the Metasploit documentation, look at the different modules in here as well. But really, ExploitDB is a solid resource that'll let you go and kind of map those out as well. Because this goes and details all the different exploits and maps them based off of date. As it is, it's exactly like it says. It's exploit database. However, right, I've got a little bit of deets already in here in our blog post. So I'm going to go follow along. We're going to be using the auxiliary scanner for MySQL. So use auxiliary, and you could tab complete too to make sure you don't fat finger anything. So that's going to be the exploit we're going to be using here. And we're going to show options. So the options for this exploit here, the scanner of MySQL, blank password, brute force, DB all creds, DB all pass, all users, password, pass file. So you can go and give it specific passwords or a file containing potential passwords that you maybe used maybe RS Mangle, for example, when you're doing some password cracking to kind of guess what the password is. But what we're going to do is set user as pass true. And the reason we're doing that is because most of the times in a default configuration, if there's a poor administrator, right, they're not going to change that. They're going to keep, like for in this case, right, set username root. The username is password root. So we want to make sure that IP is the same, 192.168. I'm going to scroll up because I think it was like 60, yeah, 68, 61. There we go. And then, so what we're going to do now, right, and then you're going to run exploit. Exactly like we're following along with the blog post, but basically set users pass true, set username root. Our hosts, we're setting it up so we know what our target is going to be, the IP of the target. If you run exploit, right, already off the bat, root, right? The root, the username, and the password is root. And that's very default, very standard configs when you're setting up MySQL. I come from a system and network administrator background, so we don't keep default configurations, but you could be part of a small enterprise, a small organization, and folks, they just go and install these services, they install applications, and they don't change configurations, they don't change default passwords and things along those lines. And you might be hearing that come out of my mouth and you're probably thinking to yourself, come on, James, no way. People definitely go and they change passwords, but there have been times in which, I'm not gonna lie, I've actually seen it in the wild where organizations, they don't do simple things like changing the default passwords. So moving along and continuing along with our Metasploitable box here, right? So we've got MySQL. We know what that password is for MySQL. So we can go and we can further our exploits here. So now we have credentials, specifically MySQL credentials. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we could dump the etc password file, because as y'all know, etc password is where all the password hashes are stored, and it's a key critical file on the Linux operating system. So we're going to exit out of Metasploit here. And what we're going to do is we're going to log into MySQL. So MySQL -user root password root. And then the host is 192.168.68.61. And there we go. So now we're logged in. And mind you, we're already at root here. So it's kind of like, again, this Metasploitable box is relatively easy, relatively simple based off of those standards and defaults that are already configured. So we're going to use the MySQL language, and that's select load _file. And this is like very basic. You don't really need prerequisite knowledge to know or to kind of realize that we're dumping a file out here using MySQL. You can easily Google this. It's just select load file. Like, this is very basic, rudimentary MySQL command. And if we hit enter, what do you know? We got that etc password file here. So now we get a list of users. We can kind of see where they're operating at as well. And in this Metasploitable box, the key here is that MSF admin. So MSF admin, that user, exactly like it sounds like, they're admin. So they're probably they're root user on this box. So right off the bat, right, we leverage that MySQL box here, and then we're gonna try and elevate over to MSF admin. So doing that, we're gonna see if we can do some SSH command execution success. So privilege escalation, and we're gathering intel from SSH as well. So let's do that, right? I'm gonna exit out here. Go back into MSF console. And then we're gonna swap over to the scanner. And we're gonna change the scanner this time. Why? Because we are gonna use SSH. There we go. Set username. So we know the username now. The username is going to be MSF admin. And again, right, set user as pass true. So we'll be testing that out and see if that works. Spoiler alert. Set our host. We set our target host there. All right. And then we're going to run an exploit. There we go. So now we got that session. You get success. MSF admin, MSF admin. Real easy, real simple there. Very basic. And it is Metasploitable 1. So it's kind of, kind of expected there. So at that point, right, swapping this here. Let's see. So there you go. Sessions-I. So now we're going to log into that session there. And here we are. So at this point, right, who am I? MSF admin, ifconfig. What's our IP? Are there any other network hosts there or any other network adapters? So there you go. There's the IP that we connect to, things along those lines. You can cat etc passive wd here as well. Furthermore, you can do a lot of things. You can like ls pwd. So yeah, I know vulnerable. I don't know if that's a file or what. Cat vulnerable. What's that? It's a directory, so cd and the vulnerable in there. Even though we're already here, right? ls, what's in there? So like MySQL, Samba, TikiWiki, like, there you go. So right with that here, we leveraged Metasploit, got into this Metasploitable box, using one of the exploits there, using an open port. And there's multiple different ways you can go into this box, but for this purpose of this post, we just use MySQL, MySQL. There's other ways that you can do. You can use Samba. You can use the other options as well. However, MySQL is. We even leveraged it in showing that database command as well. And it kind of shows you how kind of easy it is to get started into red teaming and things along those lines. So y'all got your feet wet here. And we followed along in this blog post as well. We were able to go detail a few of the different steps in the pen testing life cycle, all partnered with our blog post here. This video, if you're not watching it on the website over here, you're watching it on YouTube. So feel free to go to jameskenneth.com. navigate to this blog post. And again, it is 2019-10/06 that this one came out, but we're remaking the video. And with that, right, there you go. We did our due diligence here. We got root. We did the fun stuffs. I really hope you all found this video valuable. Feel free, like, comment, subscribe. I really heart y'all if you leave some comments. Really like to start the discussion here. Making sure we're really catering to y'all here as well. Making sure you're getting as much out of this, as much fun as I am going and doing things along these lines. But hopefully y'all found that valuable. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.